see here. There are threats and there are opportunities for the 21st century. And we're lucky to have with us today Greg Butler. Greg is founder of the Collaborate Impact and a worldwide education leader, and he will dig in deeper into what skills are required for the 21st century. After Greg's speech, we will have a small discussion here with Uno Forst, Lotta Gröning and Jonas Milton, and that will take place in Swedish. So now we're getting closer to this bilingual exercise. But first, Greg, please, stage is yours. So please, what about teaching 21st century skills and knowledge?
Thank you. In fact, today I would like to make this presentation trilingual because I come from Australia. We speak another language altogether. It's called Australian. Sort of like English a little bit. So what I want you to do today is to tell me if there are things I say that you don't understand. So just give me a nod or help me out if that's the case. So good morning to all of you. As I said, my name is Greg Butler, and I'm founder and partner in an organisation called Collaborative Impact, which is focused on social innovation. We're in fact a partnership, and our work focuses on supporting the creation and management of large multi-stakeholder partnerships that bring together people, resources and experience to tackle some of the largest challenges with a major focus on education. I want to thank Nils for his setting up of today, and I also want to start by saying that I think the challenges that you're seeing are not unique to Sweden. In my experiences, these are global challenges that are appearing all over the world in slightly different ways. However, there's a common thread running there, and I'd like to pick up on that thread as we go along. And today, I'm not going to talk about challenges in the education system alone. That can be fixed by the education system alone. And I want to pick up on your last point, Nils, and start off by saying that I'm talking about a point in time of the need for massive education change. The exciting thing is that we're at a point where I think this is the time, and it involves societies working together. It's no longer a point to say this is the problem of the educators or this is the problem of the education ministry. It's the problem that you all face, and it has effects that impact all of you. And unless you start to work as a partnership around this issue, then I think you're going to see perhaps minimal changes and perhaps not the position you want to be. So, if you ask kids what they think about school, most of them tell you a story. Who has kids here? Go home and ask them what they think about school. Do your own little survey here. And a 2012 study by Lee Jenkins, and this is from the US, I know, but there's correlating data across Europe, etc., tells us that starting in kindergarten, when kids come with so much passion, so much energy, their love of schooling diminishes every year of schooling until they get to grade 9 or year 9, and then I think they can see the light at the end of the tunnel. There's a little bit of a pickup there, but really it's pretty poor, isn't it? Not a great growth. The Gates Foundation, which you've all probably heard of, based in the US, did a study in 2006 called the Silent Epidemic. They surveyed students who had dropped out of the system. Now in the US, in high school, they have about a 46% dropout rate. And no, that's a national. Yeah, national. Yes. Now, obviously, it's influenced by certain geographies in the country. And what they found when they surveyed those students who had dropped out is that 50% of those students said that they didn't drop out because they were falling behind. They dropped out because what was happening wasn't relevant to their career aspirations, and they found it not that good. It was something or other that they felt didn't add value to what they wanted to do. So I'd like to sort of start today by stealing a quote from Michael Fullan. He said, you know, it's really, really bad when you've got a class of bored kids, but it's probably much worse if you're a teacher trying to teach a class of bored kids. And in fact, satisfaction levels for teachers are also at some of the lowest levels. So we have some indicators there that I think are quite interesting. Just to pick up on another one of the threads was that if we look at youth unemployment, and this is just across the Eurozone, obviously you can see, there are the outstanding countries, Greece, Spain and Italy. But I also want you to look at the overall average. And this is, again, not a European-focused phenomenon. In fact, the global average for youth unemployment is now at an official figure of 12.6%. So in other words, I always like to think of it this way. Line up 100 children, pick the 13, but you say, you're not going to have a job. Or you may not have a job yet. And then if you take that 100 and you say, how many of them will have the job that is their career aspiration, the thing that really is their passion? It's actually about middle. So around about 50% fall into the underemployed or employed in a job that they don't like. That's something or other that I think we should all think about. And in 2012, Microsoft published a report called the National Talent Strategy in the US. And they reported that with their workforce of about 40,000 employees in the US, they had 6,000 vacant positions that they had advertised and interviewed for and couldn't fill. 6,000. And of those 6,000 positions, 3,600 were for software engineers, researchers. These were the highest paid jobs. And they couldn't fill them. And even worse than that, they reported in it that that was a 36% year-over-year growth. So I think we're faced with some interesting dynamics that are happening. And even with increased spending in education, if we look at a modern classroom, what we see is that while it may have some computers and whiteboards and technology, the basic pedagogies, assessment approaches and norms haven't changed much over the last 100 years. It's the same thing. So while we put a coat of paint on education, we really haven't changed the underlying model at all. And I think this is one of the things that we need to think about. I think I'd like to talk to you today about a relevance conundrum. Conundrum is the only Swedish word I know. I think you say data. Gutta. There you go, my Australian accent children. So I'd like to explore this and how we can prepare all young people for success in life and work. Okay, so I think it starts with assessing and teaching the right skills. And I've brought along a little bit of me here. This is my report card from when I was in 3G. And it tells you a little bit of how old I am, I know. This was a long time ago. However, I think it's really interesting if you look at what was the focus of education then, if this is an indication. So we spent a lot of time on the basics, on reading, writing, arithmetic. It was a focused curriculum with tests to measure how much you could remember, what your recall was, and really how compliant you were to the norm. And I love this report card because if you look at the second item, silent reading, I scored 36 out of 60. Now, anyone who's an educator or even not an educator, you can try this with your own kids. It's really good. It's going to give you a test of silent reading. It's going to run for 3 hours. And you can't say anything. You don't have to have a book in front of you. How do you measure silent reading? Have you thought about that? I mean, really, what do you do? Yes, you spoke, you're out. So, some of these measures were, I guess, appropriate at the time, but really what was focused on was producing a young person who was accurate, didn't ask questions, compliant, could do repetitive things. That was great when I was in 3G, because that was a while ago. But today, is that the type of young people we want? And so, what I'd like to do is take that a little bit further and say maybe the skills for today's workforce, and prior to starting the organisation I'm in now, I worked for 12 years at Microsoft, and as a hiring manager, to be honest, I never looked at people's academic qualifications. What I wanted to know was if these people have the skills in things like problem solving and innovation, global awareness, because we're a global organisation, knowledge construction, skilled communication, self-regulation, collaboration. And the interesting thing about the workplace of today is these aren't skills in isolation. They in fact all get merged together. And they get merged with digital technology so that we get things like globally working on collaborative problem solving, or doing new knowledge creation and innovation in distributed change. And these are the type of things that are important. In fact, most industry today is not happening in one place. It's quite distributed. We have global value chains where bits are manufactured here and here, and people don't even speak the same language, but they've got to work together to engineer something. So this is, I think, a critical thing that we need to think about. And I stole this graph from Andreas Weicker from OECD, and I quite like it, even though it's relatively old because it only goes through to 2002, but I think it makes an important point. So let's think a little bit about what's happened since I was in 3G. Has the world changed? Well, I think a fundamental shift in skills is highlighted here. So the demand for routine manual and cognitive skills is diminishing. In fact, if you follow the graph out for 10 years, it's even more of a gap. And so these are being replaced by automation and productivity gains. At the same time, non-routine, analytical and interactive skills are increasing. This is where the new jobs lie. This is where the new opportunities lie. According to Andreas Weicker, and if you don't know Andreas, he's the advisor to the Director General on OECD for Education, you no longer get paid for what you know. You get paid for what you can do with what you know. It's the application of deep learning competencies that matter. And the dilemma for education today is that the skills that are easiest to teach and test are also the ones that are easiest to digitise, automate and outsource. So, seeing I'm on limited time today, I'm going to cut to the chase a little bit. The big question for you in the room, I think, is this. Can you solve the problem you face that we're discussing today with incremental change? Is it just a matter of tweaking the system a little bit? Or do you need to look towards transformational agendas? And so I'm going to share with you 7 suggestions just to speed up the discussion a little bit that I'd ask you to consider and include in the discussion maybe. Number 1, can we move towards schools that are truly motivating, engaging and exciting for teachers, students and communities? To quote Michael Fullan again, can we make school learning irresistibly compelling? Number 2, can we move from routine information recall to a competency-based model where students progress based on their ability to demonstrate proficiency in the skills, knowledge and attitudes they need for success? We've got to get away from the notions of giving kids ABs and 75s. They mean nothing. All they allow you to do is competitive positioning. Doesn't work. Can we measure what we truly value in learners rather than what is easy to measure? Can we develop the skills, knowledge in our teachers to help them move to be the enablers of learning partnerships? Not just partnerships between teachers and students, but students and students, students and their parents, students and communities, teachers and teachers, teachers and governments. This is a connected world, and we have to build those connections. They have to be strong connections. Can we create an education system that accommodates all learners' individual needs, aspirations, and hopes, supporting the idea that everyone doesn't need exactly the same education? Why do we need standardisation in education? Number 6, can we develop students to be life-wide learners? In other words, we're enabled and focused on learning within and beyond the school and provide incredible education productivity gains. Number 7, can we build into the roles of all of those in education the use of rapidly available data that is constantly innovating and improving, and in the process celebrate success and failure? Have you ever considered the tolerance for failure in education? How can you innovate when there's zero tolerance? And of course, digital tools can and will accelerate and deepen this change in all of these areas when applied in the right ways. So, what I'd like to do is share with you a little bit of the work that we're doing at the moment. So, I'm currently working with my organisation on 2 global partnerships, and just to give you a taste of some of our thinking around this. One's called New Pedagogies for Deep Learning, and The other is called Collaborative Assessment Alliance. New Pedagogies for Deep Learning is an international partnership involving 1,000 schools in 10 countries. And they're organised into these groups, of these clusters we call them, each working in different places around the world. They're focused on whole system change, transforming learning from putting new pedagogies for deep learning into practice, and theory into practice, theory and ideas into practice. This global partnership involves government, private sector, global corporations, academic institutions, local governments, social innovation organisations, etc. The Collaborative Assessment Alliance is another multi-stakeholder partnership, and we're looking at creating an alliance membership here in Sweden. And it's meant to extend the outcomes of the assessment and teaching of 21st century skills project, which started to look at how we can measure some of these complex skills in reliable and predictable ways. And so what it's aimed at doing is building these local member alliances that develop the capacity and skills to create these new forms of assessment so that teachers have the tools so they can better measure where kids are at in these complex skills and therefore build the right learning paths for those students. Some of the people that we're working with, some of these may know in the education domain, people like Michael Pullen, Andreas Fleiker, John Hattie, Peter Hill, Russ Quaglia, Daniel White, Yal Mehta, etc. So we've tried to bring together a pretty all-star team to work on this. And then, as I said, it's a partnership mode, so we're working with many organisations, large corporations like Intel, Microsoft, Promethean, and then organisations that range from associations to other bodies. So let me just walk you quickly to give you an idea of what we're doing. This is New Pedagogies for Deep Learning. And our focus is really here on developing deep learning competencies in students, in teachers, in ministries, in communities. And those deep learning competencies are described there. It's done in a partnership mode so that we're working actively with partnership being the base, including local partnerships. We have 1,000 schools organised into 10 clusters as living learning laboratories. So these are learning as they do it. This is not an add-on, this becomes their work, innovation is their focus. We're engaging the communities, the ministries, the other organisations, and our major focus is on capacity building. Not just capacity building in pedagogical issues or assessment issues, but also on partnership, whole system change, etc. It's a very exciting piece of work. At the same time, the Collaborative Assessment Alliance is really taking this idea of moving assessment away from measuring what the answers that are right, to moving towards how do we measure the type of competencies people have, positioning among the learning progressions that we want to see people go through, and getting teachers the tools to do that in a highly effective way. Unfortunately now, most of the work done in this domain is from intuition or from subjective measures. This starts to provide the reliability. So we're creating new knowledge and connecting it to the world by using the power of digital tools from a rich stream. That's the idea of this measurement. And by building capacity, we want to see that this becomes part of the daily operation, the way things work. So, I'd like to finish with 4 closing points, if I can. And the first one is this, that when? 2013, 2014 is the time. I think we're at a major inflection point being driven by many of the forces that you're going to talk about today. Internal and external will deliver massive change over the next 5 years. So now's the time to take action. We know the what, others will speak about that. There's not a surprise here as to what we do, it's how we do it and how we diffuse it. I'm not going to use the word scale, I'm going to say it needs to diffuse through education systems, through communities and societies. So it's really the how we need to focus on. And the third thing I'd like to say is, people often say, what are the risks involved in this? Well, I think we're reaching a point where probably the biggest risk we face is the status quo. So I'll finish with this. We're taking action. I hope you will too. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. Hopefully there's some ideas there, some embers, some little sparks that might light ideas for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, thanks. No. Yeah. Before I let you go with start the discussion, I have a question for you. What you describe here, Greg, is a significant change in how we perceive and think about education, both teaching and learning. It's definitely an era of change, but it's even more drastic than that. It's change of era.
Oh yes, absolutely. I think, and there, Peter Hill, who's working with us, who's a statistician. He was head of a CAR in Australia, the National Curriculum Assessment Reporting Body. I was talking to him just 2 months ago, and he was telling me that if you look at PISA, which we all live and die by apparently, then what you will see is that there hasn't been any significant improvement at the top of the scale for the last 10 years. Lots of movement underneath. So what that says is the steam engine has run out of pump. We've got to get a better engine. And so I would say it is a changing era. Otherwise we'll plateau, we'll continue to plateau. You can put band-aids all you want, it's not going to help. So I'll go back to my first question. Is it incremental or transformative?
Thank you. Please stay on stage. And by the way, Andreas Schleicher is well known for the Swedish audience. He was here only a week ago, I think, 10 days, something like that, to give us some advice about our bad results on the PISA study. So,
and interestingly, in 2015, PISA is going to include a collaborative element. That's a little wild card for you, just to even make it more exciting.
So it's an early warning for Sweden.
Exactly.
Please stay on stage. We will call up 3 persons to be part of this discussion. Now you can use your earphones if you want to.
Another fashion accessory.
Nu är språk. Välkommen upp. På scenen har vi nu Jonas Nilsson som är vd för Almega, vi har Lotta Gröning som bland annat är kolumnist på Expressen och Uno Fors som är professor vid Stockholms universitet. Det är jätteroligt att ha er här och jag skulle vilja be er om hjälp att sätta det Greg pratar om i ett svenskt perspektiv. Vad betyder det för utbildningssystemet? Vad betyder det för arbetsmarknad, privata företag och vad betyder det för individer? Vill Jonas börja? Förlåt, vet du vad? Jag tror inte jag skulle på. Så, det här underlättar. Stort.
Ja, det är klart, det betyder mycket. Som ni får prata om här så kallar PISA-undersökningen. Det jag vill lyfta fram här är IT-kompetensen. Det är oerhört viktigt framtiden som också berördes lite. Men även frågor som kreativitet och innovation, entreprenörskap. Förmågan att samarbeta. Det är ju sådana saker vi märker när vi söker medarbetare i våra företag att det brister väldigt mycket. Några exempel.
De 6 huvudsakliga kompetensområdena, är de lika, gäller de i lika stor utsträckning i Sverige, i svensk perspektiv?
Nej, utifrån min synpunkt gör det.
Lotta ville lägga till något.
Det slutar snabbt den här.
Vad hemskt!
Men jag funderar mycket på hur, alltså en gång i tiden var vi ganska bra när det gällde IT och IT-utveckling. Och hur har vi kunnat halka efter så förskräckligt? Och jag tänkte på det Greg sa, jag har en dotter som går i 5:an nu som egentligen älskar skolan men säger nu att det börjar bli tråkigt. För att de får låsa in sina mobiltelefoner på rasten och har inga datorer. Även om det håller på att ändras nu. Alltså jag tror att om inte Sverige klarar av att anpassa sig till det som Greg säger, alltså den förändringen som håller på att ske, då kommer vi att vara väldigt illa ute. Och det jag funderar på också, det som vi har missat under decennier, och det kanske Uno kanske är bättre än vad jag, men det är ju kompetensutvecklingen också för lärarna. Alltså än idag så finns det ju inte liksom pedagogik för IT, alltså IT som verktyg i undervisningen på lärarutbildningen. Och det är ju en jättestor brist. Och sen också när det gäller företagen, alltså just de här kreativa ämnena, alltså kommunikation, retorik, drama, konst som är liksom ett basämne i Australien och Nya Zeeland använder. Alltså, jag tror att det var 12 personer som sökte till musiklärare i Sverige förra året. Vi håller på att nedmontera det totalt och det är ju en otroligt viktig ingång i framtiden för att få ett jobb.
Så det är inte bara naturämnen och det andra vi har sett, utan det är lika mycket humaniora och liknande. Det är en jättebra övergång till dig. Och du jobbar just nu på att utveckla lärarutbildningen på Stockholms universitet. Också för att införa IT, både som pedagogiskt stöd och som en del av utbildningen.
Ja, jag försöker åtminstone. Det är inte helt rätt, men man kan gå igenom en hel lärarutbildning i Sverige utan att få en enda timme kring hur kan moderna IT-pedagogiska metoder användas i skolan. Däremot finns det obligatoriska kurser i pedagogikens historia.
Hellre bakåt än framåt.
Men till Greg nu. Du talar väldigt mycket om lära ut the right skills, de rätta förmågorna och influens. Min fråga är liksom, hur kan man egentligen komma dit? Och kan moderna delar eller metoder vara en del av det? För det är viktigt om man ska ändra utbildningssystemet att man faktiskt kommer till dem. Eller uppfylla de väsentliga förmågorna. Och sen då, när man har gjort det där, då är det sant. Då är det klart, hur kan man veta? Hur kan man mäta att en person har rätt kompetens? Det är jättemånga till exempel invandrare i Sverige som kommer och flyktingar som har jättebra utbildningar. De har inte betygen med sig. Och då kommer vi i Sverige och landet och vet inte vi att vi kan något. Så det går inte att se, kan man mäta? Eller är det en kompetens? Kan man göra det via till exempel lärande eller via
You just want to put on for a phone first, and you keep on What's the question for you, Greg? Did you understand the question you got it?
Yeah. I think it's really important that I think what we've got to do is start to understand it much deeper in assessment literacy or measurement literacy, because what I find is that we have a population that's driven by pretty simple ideas of what school measures and the value we put on those things. So I think your point is really important. Part of the work that we're doing is we need much better measures, particularly formative measures rather than summative. And we need those measures that provide reliable feedback on the competencies that people have rather than just saying, I'm going to measure knowledge today. So in that slide I put there, I said, we've got to move from measuring the things that are easy to measuring the things that are complex. There's a huge amount of effort happening in this at the moment. That's why I think it's one of the important focuses, because until we make that move, we can have all the rhetoric in the world, but we won't have skilled and equipped teachers who can understand where someone is on a learning progression, and then how do I move them up that learning progression. That's the big challenge, I think. And so I agree wholeheartedly, we've got to do that, but it's letting go of some things that we hold dear for some reason, and bringing into place, doing the work to build new. That's why I say I think we're at an inflection point.
Också redan varit inne på att vi saknar praktisk erfarenhet. Det är så man bygger kompetens. Inte bara teoretisk kunskap, utan också praktisk erfarenhet. Om jag förstår Greg så finns det möjligheter att också med hjälp av ny teknik öva sig i praktiska. Ska du då vara med?
Ja, jag tycker det. Jag använder väldigt lite. Jag har jobbat med allt från att försöka både träna och mäta förmågor till läkarstudenter som eller diagnos eller sköterskor och ta hand om studenter som har svår sorg eller lärarstudenter som ska kunna bedöma om det är en elev under särskilt stöd eller en jurist som behöver kunna hantera ett kritiskt politiskt. Och det där går inte verkligen kritiskt ofta liksom. Utan det är det jag tycker är så moderna sätt att moderna metoder kan faktiskt göra det. Man kan göra allt väldigt bra. Man kan simuleringar till andra miljöer. Man kan både påverka och lära sina förmågor. Så det tror jag.
Att det är svårare än vad det tidigare var så dina.
För det sa mig inte. Man har en egenskap att titta mycket på det företaget och det är samarbete med dem. Jag tänker på att man gör det. Det är väldigt intressant att och inte minst i Sverige, men särskilt perspektiv att vara svenskfrågor så stora företag och organisationer extremt utomoriserade för att veta vad det kommer. Att få det låter som en andra möjligheter med krav på social förmåga, krav på anpassning, krav på att kunna jobba i grupp, krav på mänsklig fattigdom.
dessutom framgångsrik. Och vi har inte möjlighet för folk att göra det här. Funkar. Men vi har det inte.
Vi får sista repliken i den här rummen. Jag tänker på vår skola idag. Vi måste bli inte på någon överhuvudtaget, utan där låter vi göra vad de kan och vad de människor för. Så det är en väldigt stor omställning om vi ska komma upp till bistånd i 2015 där de faktiskt ska börja med att ta vågor. Så att det krävs ganska mycket faktiskt. Men det är bra att vi vet om problemen, eller hur? Vi har några få resultat som det här. You want to comment?
One little comment I think is, talking about IT in schools, one of the things that worries me is that we're moving through an age of consumption of information. I mean, whether you're an iPad or whatever, your phone, we're continually consuming information. And there's a mistake, I think, when you think that that has anything to do with deep learning necessarily. I think it's shallow learning, and I think if we want kids to be entrepreneurs, to have these skills, we've got to have learning focused on creation. So you've got to build things, and you've got to have performance measures that measure building and creation and innovation. And those things don't happen if we only focus on consumption. So the notion is putting textbooks on iPads or whatever, on whatever device it is Wikipedia, is nothing.
And we're not allowing people to go out and Google in the classroom. The students cannot use Google.
Not even allowed to have a classroom. Okay, everyone, I'm going to get basket. You've got to give me your phone. Who's happy for that?
Thank you guys. It's so good on the speakers. So one applause for all of you. We're not